Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. So I'm going to take a little different path than I often do if you are a fan of my YouTube page, but I do have some videos about this. So what I'm talking about is junk journaling. And what is junk journaling? I get a lot of requests for it, so I thought, well, let's do a series about it and let's take you through the beginning stages. Some of you that join me might also be already into junk journaling, and I find in the junk journaling community there's a lot of let's share, let's see what your technique is, and all that kind of stuff. Excuse me. So I thought I'd get on here and just start with what is junk journaling, because sometimes I say it and people are like, what is that? So I thought about, like, have you ever saved a Christmas card or a birthday card, or maybe thought, wow, this is a really cool envelope, or this is a beautiful piece of paper, but you didn't know what to do with it. Maybe you accidentally spilled a drink on it, and it's even better now that you have done that. Now, I have some examples here of different kinds of papers. Now, this is just printer paper that I've sprayed with, it's called Distress Ink spray. So we're going to learn more about this, so don't worry about it. I just wanted to show it to you. And I did this one up with some of the black ink, and it's all crinkly, and if you like crinkly paper, then this is definitely a craft for you. I even have like a Staples old paper bag, and I was getting a lot of printing done at Staples, and they always give it to you in one of these white bags a lot of the times, and I just love the sound of it. And this is one of my last ones actually, because I've used it a lot in my junk journaling. And that's the beauty of junk journaling. Like, so here's like a pretty, it got folded, it's a little rough, but it's still really pretty, very usable in junk journaling. In fact, if they're a little worn, it's okay. This is a book page that got some water spilt on it, and now, like I said, it's even better now that it has some water spilt on it. There's lots of finds, lots of cards. Like, this is an envelope that I've taken apart, but it was just so pretty, and I'm going to use it in my junk journaling. I have a friend of mine who sends me cards not just on my birthday and Christmas, but also just randomly. If she sees a card, she'll send it to me and say, oh, I was just thinking about you. Here's another one that she sent me not too long ago. So Diane is her name. She's an awesome lady, one of my best friends. And she knows very well, even though she's written a note in here, that I'm going to tear this apart and I'll be using this in my junk journals. But I love it. And it's a great way to stay in touch with friends too, like, I made this and was just thinking of you, or in her case, she finds these very cool cards, usually with some very cool envelopes. And even if it's not like a cool envelope, as I say, I can make it into one. Speaking of which, the thing about junk journaling is you'll never look at paper or your mail in the same way again. Like, so for instance, I've got these held terrible bills. What's with all these bills I keep getting? But they have some cool envelopes, and you can use them in your junk journaling. So, with the little windows and stuff, that's a video for another day. There's scrap stuff that you can use. You can see I collaged on here, and I tore out a piece of this. You could put this whole page in. Also, thrift stores are now your new best friend. I found this in a thrift store, and it had all kinds of beautiful cards in it, and just the holder alone is gorgeous. I found this in a thrift store. This is paper, like back in the day when you used to write letters to people, dear so-and-so, here's how my day is going. It included envelopes as well. Never been opened. Got it at a thrift store. It's amazing the finds you'll get in thrift stores. This one is kind of funny, this piece of paper, because some kind of ink or something fell on the book. I'm not sure what fell, or maybe some paint or something, but I tore out the pages. It was a book I was going to use for junk journaling anyways, but I took out the pages because I'm like, oh, this is great. Like I said, you'll never look at paper the same way again. This paper actually held a bouquet of flowers. This paper here is packing paper from probably an Amazon order or something like that. Love the sound of it. Going to use it. And even like book pages, like I just wanted to show an example of, you know, I've drawn that. It looks kind of funky. You don't have to be great, which is awesome. I've got this beautiful music book. I like to think I played the violin. I did play the French horn in high school. I have not played the French horn since I've been in high school. I would love to be able to sit down and just bang out a tune on the piano. I could do chopsticks and things like that, but you know, nothing beyond that. But I found this beautiful music book. So I'm not going to use it for music, but I will be using the music sheets inside. And even the cover is a thicker cover, really nice paper. Again, you're never going to look at paper the same way. So like I said, if you've saved paper, if you saved a card, not sure what to do with it, if you like the idea of upcycling things, even your bills, or at least the envelopes those bills come in, this is definitely a great activity to participate in. Okay, so famous last words. I might use this someday. Crafters' famous last words. And today I'm going to reinforce all those thoughts, all those papers that you have saved up. So I'm going to show you what a junk journal is. And what it is a homemade book of sorts. Now, I'm going to qualify that. But also the other thing I'm going to talk about is why people love making them. What's so great about them, and how to create soulfully, especially if you've sat down and you don't know where to begin. I've had a lot of customers who have bought my junk journal books. If you look at my playlists, there's one that's a junk journal flip through. So great place to go to get ideas of what I've done in the past. I often jokingly said, if you're buying a junk journal, go and look it up on that playlist so you know where all the pockets and things are hidden, because I often will hide things in my book. So even just getting a junk journal and flipping through it, if you're buying it from someone, there's often like a little treasure hunt within it. Now, I've changed how I've done things since the beginning, but still a great place to go and get ideas if you want to start your own activity of doing junk journals. But it can be very overwhelming. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about where to start, kind of thing, and why junk journal is so beautiful and so calming for the mind, the heart, and the soul. It can be very healing, and why it's more than just a craft. So my name is Lady Rose of Goddess Garage. I also go under the name on Facebook, and I know that dates me, right? Like, you're old if you're still on Facebook. But my name on Facebook is Rhonda Devlin-Gilbert, and it's a great place to connect with me. I've always loved being creative. For a long time, I was a professional makeup artist. I had my own spa and stuff, and I felt that the human face was my canvas. And I really enjoyed that aspect of being creative. And I enjoy other crafts. Like, I love to cross stitch. I love crocheting. I love jewelry making, all of it. You know, like, if you introduce me to a new craft, I'll probably love doing it. But I've also been in awe of those people that are what you would say are artists, right? Like the people that can sit down and sketch or draw or paint something beautiful. I have a friend, Janet Bell, who's on Facebook, and she's gotten into painting, and she just knows where to put things and how to make a painting. And to me, that's like, oh my God, how do you do that? That's amazing. My daughter is also a professional artist. She's shown me some tips and techniques, which is really cool, but she can just sit down and sketch something out, and it's just wow, okay, how did you know how to place all those things, right? And my sister, one of my sisters, I'm the oldest of 7, so one of my sisters is also an artist in that sense that she can sit down and she's painted and she's sketched and she's done all these things. And my mother was a bit of an artist as well. She was very good at sketching and whatnot. And you know, it seems to have skipped me. But I'm happy to pass it along to my daughter, who, like I said, is very successful at being an artist, both professionally and at home, and you know, all that kind of stuff, right? So she's very great at that kind of stuff. I know. I knew, though, that my creativity needed to find a different canvas when I shut down my spa and whatnot. I wasn't doing makeup artistry as much. And today the makeup artists are just incredible, right? Like, I've seen some of the shows and I've seen the tutorials and I'm just like, oh, wow, okay, we're going to that level. Okay. And it's awesome. I love it. Right now I am sans makeup, but you know, and I'm in my donut apron. I realize that when I turn the video on, I'm like, oh, I'm still in my apron. And I have literally been making donuts today. So I'm creative in the kitchen too. So I wouldn't say I'm the best cook, but I'm a pretty good one, I would say. And I've been baking donuts today. Anyways, I needed to find a canvas and a different palette. And I'm an Aries, so I like to jump around to my different crafts. One day I'm cross-stitching, the next day I'm junk journaling. But junk journaling is definitely where I always come back home, right? And when I was looking for that different palette, that different canvas, that's when I found junk journaling. And I didn't realize I'd kind of been doing junk journaling without realizing it, because I would make these little books and they were journals, like a regular journal kind of thing. But I would do what my husband teased me about, of cutting and gluing. So I'd see a nice picture that I liked, or I'd have a nice card, and I'd cut out the part that I really liked, and I would glue it into my journal, and then I would keep journaling and writing about stuff. So I was cutting and gluing already. And that's a very important feature of the junk journal, cutting and gluing. Now there's different types of cutting, which we're going to talk about in another video. But you're going to learn a lot of the terms in the junk journaling community and the art form that it is. But junk journaling, generally speaking, ticked off a lot of boxes for me. It's about healing. Even if you're not realizing it, even if you're not doing it on purpose, it's about healing. It's also about storytelling, you know, because there's the imagination that needs to be engaged. And that engages a different part of your brain, which helps with the healing. Stay with me on this, okay? It's about memory keeping. Sometimes some of the journals you make are just for yourself and just to hold the precious things that you've done or that you want to remember. You know, maybe it's an important date of some kind that marks a milestone, or marks a super happy day, a super sad day. It could be airplane ticket stubs. It could be train stubs. It could be a map of, a particular city you've been in, or a museum you've gone to, whatever it might be, or maybe tickets to a concert you've gone to. Junk journals can hold all that stuff for you. And we're going to get into that later. It's turning forgotten, or what might have been thrown in the garbage or even recycling, into something meaningful again. So it's very much about upcycling. Now, it doesn't have to be exclusively upcycling, but it can. And there's many junk journalists out there who have, done the challenge of, in this junk journal, I'm only using upcycling materials. I'm not using brand new stuff, right? But that's an important feature of it. And you don't have to do exclusively that way. So anyways, also, if you'll, like I said earlier, you'll never look at paper the same way again, or anything you get in the mail. You'll get it and you'll be like, can I use this? Yes, I can. You'll never look at bits and bobs, your birthday cards, all that kind of stuff. You'll never look at it again the same way. And the very cool thing about junk journaling and being an artist in this venue is you don't need to be an artist. If you can draw stick figures, that was hard to say, or if you can glue, if you can cut, you can be a junk journaler. That's really the only skills that are needed. Junk journaling is creativity without rules. And I love that aspect. You get to color outside the lines, whether it's by accident or on purpose. And even when it's by accident, you can say, yeah, I meant to do that. That turned out even better than I planned. So what is a junk journal? Like I said, it's a book, and I usually have some around. I know I have some over here, so just bear with me for a second while I grab a couple of junk journals so I can show you what it is, what a junk journal is. Okay, I've got two here. So again, sorry. This happens a lot to junk journalers. You're going to find when you start watching junk journalers, they're always going off to the side to grab something that they've forgotten. Because, well, that's life. You forget things sometimes, right? And as I always say to my kids, I'm old. What do you want from me? I'm old. So this is a junk journal here. And most of the flip throughs that you might go back and watch have been sold, but don't be afraid to ask if you're looking to buy a junk journal. So this is what it is. I'm not going to do a full flip through here, but there's one, and this is actually made from a book cover. So like I've taken the guts out and I've made it with a book cover. Now this one was made out of an envelope. An envelope I believe I got from Amazon. You know, they send you like one little tiny thing. It comes in a giant envelope. So this whole thing, back and front, was actually an envelope at one point, and now it's a junk journal, and it's a beautiful one. I love this one. So that's just an example. So like I said, what is a junk journal? A junk journal is a handmade book or upcycled book created from recycled or found materials. Thrift stores are a great place to get some of these older papers or things that you might need for a junk journal. There's a huge list of stuff. Now, some people limit it to certain particular things, and others tend to, pile stuff up. I tend to be a piler. But some of the things that this can include that you're going to sort of be on the lookout for, on the hunt for. So it could include old envelopes, book pages, fabric. And you don't need a lot of fabric. It's not like you need yards and yards of fabric. If you have a friend that sews, ask her for the scraps, right? Because that's really what you need, is just the scraps. Lace, you probably will want yards and yards of it because you're going to use it a lot. And one thing that sort of happens to junk journalers is they tend to become a little bit of a hoarder. So in my family, my husband has this sort of unwritten rule, and the kids have adopted it, our kids as well as myself, of Papa's rule of 2. And it means buy 2 of whatever, because if you're buying a candle, if you're buying obviously a pair of socks, you want 2 of those. If you're buying like a loaf of bread, buy 2. A lot of things can apply to buy the 2 rule, and there's more times than not that it's like, damn, I'm so glad I got 2 of these, right? As opposed to, I'll just buy 1 for now. And the thing with where it applies with junk journaling is there are supplies that you will buy. I will in later videos go into the tools, what really is a game changer, as opposed to, yeah, it's okay to have one of these, but it's not necessary kind of thing. Because I tend to be a simple junk journaler. I like things easy. So, anyways, but there's times where, like I've bought like a particular lace thing or maybe some stickers or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I'm down to the last sticker. This is a very important thing, or this one thing that I found that is so important. Sorry, I'm just gonna decline that. Anyways, so you kind of hang on to if you know it's the last one. So if it's something you're buying, sometimes it's good to have two of them, just so that you don't get into that mode of I'm saving this, and it's amazing how fast you can go through the supplies sometimes, when you're, on a rampage sort of thing. But the other thing is old tickets, receipts, like I was mentioning before, postcards, sheet music, package paper, wrapping paper, any kind of paper, printer paper, three-line, the three-ring binder paper. So yeah, there's all kinds of things. And often it's things you might normally throw away in some way, whether you recycle or garbage them. And it's a mix of old and new, and it's taking it all and making it art, which is the fun part, right? And there's magic in that process. And why people love junk journaling and what gets them sort of addicted, right? So people have seen my junk journals and they're just like, oh, I don't know how you do it. I don't know if I could do it. So this is part of the reason I'm starting this, is people have also asked me, would you do classes? And I'm like, I would love to do a class on junk journaling. However, that being said, if I was to do a class in person, I would have to take almost my entire craft room and bring it to whatever location. And I don't have the room to have a class in my craft room. My craft room is very tiny, and I've made the most of all the tuck spots I can put stuff. But, once I start in of like, okay, we'll need this and we'll need that, I'll be like, well, we better bring this and we better bring that. And before you know it, I'm moving my entire house. So I can't put my head around doing a class in person. So I'm doing this series to help you if you want to do junk journaling, if you want to watch and just see if that is a process that you think you might be into. I'm so glad you joined me today. But what is it that we fall in love with? Well, we fall in love mostly because, one, there are no mistakes. This is the beauty of this form of art form, is that even when you mess up, just keep going. I have watched many junk journalers that I consider better than me. And, there's times where I'm watching someone and I'm like, does she know she has it inside out? Or does she know she has it upside down? In fact, I just watched someone who did it upside down. And she was just like, okay, well, I just realized after she had done everything, she realized she had done it backwards, kind of thing. And it was, not the way it was supposed to be. However, she also said, well, let's just keep going. Let's see how we can change this to make it so it still works. And that's the beauty of junk journaling, is there are no mistakes. And anytime there is what you would think is a mistake, it's like, well, if I just twist it like that, or if I just do this, then it looks like it's all on purpose. And it's beautiful. And people will be like, oh my God, how did you know? And I'll be like, I don't know. It just came to me because I screwed up. So that's the beauty of it. And this is a great life lesson too, that even when you mess up, it can still be beautiful. Even when you make a mistake, you can come back from it. In fact, life is about the low times, the hard times, the times you make mistakes, the times we screw up. And it's from those that we celebrate when we get through it. Like, oh my gosh, I'm through this. I've seen the light. I know the right way now. Or, let's go out and celebrate, or let's get the gift. What is the gift? There's always gifts that come in life, but the gifts usually only come through the mistakes, through the hard times, through the challenging, difficult times. All those things contain gifts. It's not the happy times that bring gifts. Happy times are the celebration of the gift. And in junk journaling, the gift is always art that you have created, which is beautiful, which I love. Now, there are no rules in junk journaling, but I'm going to qualify that because there actually are a couple of rules. One, or first rule is be open. Be open to whatever happens, right? I've seen it where things have been planned out to the T. And, you know, and I used to do that too. You know, I know one junk journaler who lays out her page, and then she takes a picture of it, and then she starts gluing it down based on what the picture has done. I am not like that. I don't do that because that's just extra work. I'm like, I'll just kind of remember where things were, generally speaking. And sometimes it ends up that, oh, this won't fit here now because I've moved this slightly down or slightly up or whatever. All right, I'll put it over there. Actually, that's even better, right? So be open. Have an open mind, have an open heart to whatever the art form is going to bring to you. The second rule, or the letter B rule, is C rule 1. C-A, be open. And sometimes what gets created is better than what you have planned. And just keep going. So what I love too is watching other junk journalers. You pick up on different things. You know, maybe you wouldn't do it this way, but you would do it that way. Or that's a really great idea. I love that technique. You know, there's always different ways of doing things. And sometimes it's the same technique, but she does it slightly in a different way as opposed to her, but you are more leaning this way as opposed to that way, or you try both. And there's no wrong way. They're the same thing, but they've done them differently, but they're both right. Right? And that's what's beautiful is you might not do it the same way as I do it, as other junk journalers that you see do it, but it's still right, which is beautiful. And watching junk journalers also gives you not only ideas, but also permissions. And what I mean by this is, like I said earlier, I was really, you know, anal about, like, I'd cut things out and that's a really pretty picture and I glue it into a journal and I was cutting and gluing and all that kind of stuff. And then I watched this one junk journaler and she took a picture. Now it was just like a copy picture. It wasn't like a photograph, but you can do it with that too. And it was a picture of a woman's face. She ripped it right in half in front of me. And I was like, oh my God, she just ripped that picture in half. And she made a picture and she made a page. She put down half of the face. She didn't even use the other half of the face. And it was beautiful. And I was like, I never thought of doing that. And it's weird because it's like, that is such an easy technique. Just rip the thing in half if you want it to, you know, depending on what you want to do with your page. And I was tearing like there was no tomorrow. I was like, I'm ripping this in half and I'm ripping that in half and look at how gorgeous it is. Sometimes you put it in the middle of the page. Sometimes you put it on the edge of the page, which on the other side of the page, you don't know. Maybe it's the other half of the picture that's missing. But either way, it was beautiful. And I was just like, oh my God, you know, and it was so silly that it was like, I never ever thought of ripping the page or picture in half. So, you know, like I said, watch myself, watch other junk journalers, and get some ideas, because this is such a fun process and such a magical and healing process. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But the other thing people love about junk journaling is you don't need to be artistic, which is awesome. If you can draw very basic things, and even if you can't, that's okay. Like I showed earlier, like this is just me drawing on pencil, but these are really popular. Like people love this stuff, right? Just take a black marker or black pen and just doodle a little. And you don't even have to, you know how to do a lot of things. If you can draw a heart, even a messy one, bonus. If you can do a circle and then some petals around it, great. You now know how to junk journal. It's very forgiving, which I love. And like I said earlier, it feeds the soul, and every page becomes a story of a bigger story. And a picture is worth 1,000 words, even if it's ripped up pictures. There's a lot that can be said, and the emotion that you put down on the page, you know, especially if you've been craving that kind of creativity where it's like, I'd love to be able to paint and put my soul on the canvas, but I don't know how to do that. And I don't know if I have the skills, or do I want to learn how to do that, or anything like that. And I have an artistic friend, Groovy Cats, Lisa Ray, who is awesome. She started, I think, before COVID or just at COVID, you know, and she's amazing. She knows how to do all these art things. And I'm like, well, I don't think I'm capable of that, but I love junk journaling, which is art in of itself as well. So the uses, why are we making these junk journals? Because some people think, and I did at the beginning, I would overstuff my journals. I would fill every page because I felt like, challenge accepted. I've got 100 pages to fill here. Here we go. But really, when whether you're making a journal for yourself or you're gifting it to someone else, and excuse me if I sneeze, I feel like I got a sneeze coming up, or if you're selling them, because I've sold a lot of my junk journals, it's good to leave space. Leave space, if it's for yourself, leave space to grow, leave space to express and explore, and leave space for, you know, someone who's being gifted or is buying it from you, for them to make the journal themselves as well. Not to make the journal. You've made the journal. You've put a lot of, you know, time and effort and art into it, but leave some pages blank for them to do sort of the same thing if they want, right? So one of the things that junk journals can do is document memories. It can be an actual journal that you write in. And, you know, that's a good use. In the beginning, I know when I first started junk journaling, a lot of junk journalers were making them for travel logs and travel journals. And, oh, let's take this little one. And a lot of them were sort of mimicking like the leather bound kind of journal that you would take and make field notes and notes on the plane and things like that, right? But they've since graduated and evolved into even bigger things. So I know some junk journalists who are super artistic and have the perfect cover and just know how to do everything just so. But part of the sort of magic and process of the journal, a junk journal, is that it's not perfect. There's no perfectionism needed. And in fact, that's what makes it even better. If it's too perfect, I can go out and buy a perfect journal. But if I'm gifting one to a friend or if someone's buying it, I can't tell you the number of customers that have said, I love that this is a little bit messy because it just adds to the quaintness and the aura of the journal. They don't want perfection. That's not what they're looking for. So, you know, like it can also be used for brain dumps, for instance, you know, just writing word clouds or whatever. It can express emotions. And like I said earlier, you can explore with your junk journal. And if you've made it for yourself, you can kind of know going in, what is it I want to explore? What is it I want to express? What do I like? What's the situation or the healing or whatever evolution that needs to happen? And let's see where we go. I'll start with the art and then I'll go to the words, you know, that sort of thing. It can preserve keepsakes. Like I said, you know, if you've got some concert tickets, whether you bought the journal or made the journal, you can keep everything that's going on in your life and, you know, put little things, like I said earlier, maps of cities, brochures from museums, concert tickets, whatever it might be. And for some, like me, I use them as a form of healing. Both the ones I sell and the ones that I have kept for myself. Because when we take something overlooked and give it beauty, we're doing the same for ourselves. And we're setting that example for ourselves. That in the imperfection, there is beauty. In the messiness, there is beauty. There is love. All these beautiful things. It allows you when you accept your journal, whether it's one you're going to sell or whether it's one you're going to keep, as it's okay that it's not perfect, you sort of become a little more compassionate towards yourself, that I'm not perfect either, so that's okay. And you become less judgmental and more compassionate towards your fellow human person. Meaning, you know, like the bum on the street, you're not judging them as harshly as you might have. Maybe that friend that has that one annoying habit. It's like, really? you become a little more compassionate and accepting of it, because none of us are perfect. And maybe it starts with a junk journal, that you come into that, that space of being more accepting. So what's inside a junk journal too? A lot of people wonder about this. I would encourage you again to take a look at my playlist of flip throughs of my past junk journals. And I would tell people when they bought a junk journal, before they bought it, I would do a video. And before I allowed them to take it, when they bought it from me, I'd do a video of a flip through, so that they would find all the hidden pockets and envelopes and little treasures that I would hide in there. And I can't tell you the number of people that said, yeah, I'm so glad I watched that video, because there were a couple of places that I kind of missed. I had to go back through my journal and go, oh my God, like, okay, there's stuff in here that I didn't even realize was in here. And that's what's really cool. The junk journal fills so many spots, ticks so many boxes. Like, even when you've made a junk journal for yourself, sometimes you re-find little things that you forgot about, and it's like, oh wow, okay, this is cool, I forgot I had this in here. So you're gonna find layered papers, art pages, which are always inspiring. There's pockets. We're going to get into what that is. Tuck spots and corners. These are all terms I'm sure you can probably make sense of it, but I will be doing videos on it as well. Tags, flip outs, mini journals, and of course some pages that are blank-ish, even if they're not fully blank, so you can come back and write or draw in something new. Now, some pages are decorative, and some are deeply personal, where you might hide some of your secrets. And that's the beauty of the junk journal, even within the pretty spots. Like, if someone looks at it, that maybe didn't know what it was, they're not reading your deepest, darkest secrets necessarily right out of the gate. It's not like getting a diary and going, dear diary, like, that's not how it works. So you can write stuff in there that people might not even notice at all, which is awesome. And we all have secrets, and it's okay to have secrets. And some are just simply beautiful. Some pages are. So who are you junk journaling for? So the junk journal videos, I'm going to start with beginners, and I'm going to take you all the way to more advanced techniques. And there's always something new. There's always someone who's doing something maybe in the way that you would like it, different styles, different themes, different whatever techniques and whatnot. So it's also for creative souls that may be feeling overwhelmed as to where to start. Because I know when I first started junk journaling, it could be very overwhelming, or there have been times where I've been going through a crisis in my life for whatever reason, and then I want to come back to junk journaling because I haven't done it in a while. And I'm like, okay, where do I start? That overwhelming feeling can hit you at any time, even if you're advanced. If you've been away from it a while, you kind of got to knock the rust off and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, okay, memory keepers. So people that are storytellers, I'm a very proud storytelling keeper. Now, this is a very, this is a position, title, a rank, activity that many people in the Native society kind of have in their community. I'm a Mohawk of the Haudenosaunee Confederation. You might know it better as the Iroquois Confederacy. However, Iroquois is kind of a demeaning term. It's not how we identify. We identify as Haudenosaunee. It was an not Anglican. No, it was not. It was an Algonquin term for us, which is not very nice. So we've like, yeah, we don't really like that name. I mean, not that there's anything against it, but it's just like, yeah, we identify as Haudenosaunee. That's what we call ourselves. And there's 6 nations, and I'm of the Mohawk Nation, the most eastern side of the Mohawk Confederacy, and we are the gatekeepers and doorkeepers. Not gatekeeper in a bad way, but doorkeepers of the eastern side of things, because we were right on the east coast of North America. Anyways, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole just now. But like I said earlier, it can be a memory keeper. It could be one of those grandmother books. I don't know if you've ever seen those mother books and grandmother books where you can write down like what we got at Christmas and what we ate and, what was my favorite childhood memory and all that kind of stuff. You can make one of those as well as a junk journal. So memory keepers, memories tucked away in lacy tuck spots or in pretty little envelopes, that sort of thing. Anyone who's looking to heal, and even if you're not looking to heal on purpose, or if you're like, I'm not sure where to start with the healing, junk journaling is very open, and it's like a really good friend who's just like, yeah, just come on in, sit down, relax, take it slow, cut out some pretty things, and let's cut and glue, as I said earlier, and let's do this. And before you know it, you're like, oh, I'm feeling calmer, feeling like I can make that big decision now. And my head feels clearer. And I'm feeling like I am in love. Like that loving energy is around you because you've surrounded yourself with little bits and bobs and little treasures and such pretty little things that you can't help but be a little happier afterwards, right? So for anyone healing, or anyone who's even feeling overwhelmed or anxious in life, not overwhelmed in where do I start junk journaling, that is an energy too, but just, like I can't handle life, I'm feeling like, I'm always tired, or I'm always feeling overwhelmed, or I'm always anxious, or I'm always sad, or I'm depressed, or whatever. It can help with all of that. It's a very, very healing, forgiving form. As like I said, it calms your heart, it organizes your brain, and it brings your soul to center. And in center is where love, peace, and hope live. And it allows you to step into those energies. And when we are in that energy, we know how to make decisions. We're not as off kilter anymore. We're handling things better. Even if it's just for, an hour, a day, a week, whatever it might be, that you're able to do that and come back to junk journaling and put yourself back into that space again, that's cool. That's the beauty of junk journaling, right? Anyone wanting a relaxing, slow, peaceful hobby. There's not a lot of thinking. It's not like, oh my gosh, like now I'm going to do this. And oh my God, what's the next step? And that sort of thing. Those kind of crafts are great too. You're counting your stitches or whatever, right? But there's something about junk journaling. Again, it's like a really good friend who's like, yeah, do whatever you want. We're all here for a good time. So let's just have a good time. And, junk journaling is the friend that cracks the beer or pours the glass of wine and goes, here, let's have some fun, So it's really great that way. Although there's lots to buy as far as supplies and tools go, and I will get into that. And some tools have been like, meh, they're okay. And other tools, no, this is a game changer. I have some game changer tools. Now, my game changer tools might not be yours, but I will introduce the tools because I've been doing it for a number of years. I have a lot of stuff and tools and for this craft. So, it's sort of like a review so you can see what it's really like before you buy it. And especially with supplies, like, I'm talking stickers and papers and things like that. It's good to know what you're getting. And sometimes it's not always as advertised. So keep that in mind. And I will show you those things. Learn from my mistakes. But you don't need a lot of fancy supplies to start. Like I said, it's a really good friend. Come as you are. Maybe look at your mail for the next week or so and see what comes in and, look around. We all have like stacks of papers just laying around. You can repurpose anything. And that's all junk journaling needs. It doesn't, like I said, this one that I showed you, put it down here, I made this. Now look at that cover. Isn't that beautiful? You would never know that's an envelope that came in from Amazon. It's an envelope. And yet I have managed to make a beautiful junk journal out of it. You definitely don't need experience. In fact, it's great if you don't have any experience, but you know, if you do, great. If you have in kindergarten at some point cut and glued, then you know how to junk journal. And you just need curiosity and an open heart, an open mind. You know, let's go with the flow. Keep going, even if you've made the mistakes. Sometimes the mess turns into a beautiful piece of work, right? And I've even done pages where I've been like, no, don't like it, and I'll tear it up, and not tear it up to throw it out, but I like this corner of it, and I like that corner of it, and we're going to repurpose these corners or whatever it is, right? And it's really great that way. So why do I love junk journaling? And I'm really excited to share the process of junk journaling with you, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun and way easier than emptying my whole craft room and doing it in person. And then you can watch it at your leisure, at your level, at your, you know, whatever time allows, kind of thing. So for me, junk journaling is about taking chaos and turning chaos into calm. It's one of my happy places when I'm in my craft room junk journaling. And I often turn to it when my life is being confusing, chaotic, when things are just like overwhelming. I will go into I'll give myself, you know, some time to go in and do my junk journaling. Now, that's the one thing about junk journaling. It's almost like going to see the fairies. You don't realize how long you're going to be in there, because you can say, I'll be in there an hour and I'll just junk journal. And it's like, sometimes you go in there and then it's like 8 o'clock at night and you haven't had dinner or even made dinner. And you've had a few sips of water, because I usually bring a water bottle in there. And it's like, oh, I've been junk journaling for like 10 hours. You know, it's like, I did not realize I spent that much time in there. So you kind of get lost in it a lot of times. So it's always nice when you can give yourself a day to do it, but don't say no to it if you just have an hour. Say yes. It will bring you to that calm space, whether it's an hour that you have to do it or 10 hours you have to do it. And it's turning scraps into stories. And I love that. I'm often thinking of a story when I've done some of my custom junk journals for people who have ordered specifically, I want this. There was one that I did for a shaman who, it was really cool because I took it from the very beginning of healing and recognizing what needs to be healed to full shamanic expression and healing, and she just loved it. It was quite a journey to go through that. It was quite a journey for me to do it, and I loved it. So it kind of went a little darker to light, which was a cool aspect of it as well. So when we were going through it together, we both kind of noticed that, and I didn't really realize I had done that like on purpose. Of course, I was like, oh yeah, that was totally on purpose. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm the artiste and this is what I've done. But that's the beauty of junk journaling. It's such a good friend. It doesn't get upset if you take credit for the mistakes and say, oh yeah, that was totally me. So take the credit. But it is turning that paper, the bits and bobs into a story. And I'm often thinking of a backstory, even if I'm not thinking specifically of some person or thinking specifically of a journal for myself. If it's just, let's just do this kind of journal, like Vintage Paris, for instance, is a big one. Witchy kind of ones are really big too. And I can do all of those, and it's a lot of fun to kind of create your own story as you're going, kind of thing. And like I said, it doesn't have to be my story or someone's specific story or theme or whatever. It's turning ordinary into sacred. Because when you change things into stories, you're bringing them to a level of sacredness. Because storytellers have been honored time in and time, you know, forever. But it's... I'm a very proud storyteller, and it's in the keeping of stories, the traveling bards back in the day, that sort of thing. And we love stories. Like, that's how we learn. We learn fairy tales at the beginning, and there's always life lessons in them. And I'm a storyteller I mean, I'm a fairy tale historian of sorts, so I know like the backstories of a lot of these fairy tales and where they've originated and their darker times, because they often have very dark fairy tales, and I'm not talking Grimm's. Grimm's are actually considered modern fairy tales. But if you go even deeper, there's a lot of, oh my God, kind of moments in fairy tales. It's like, this is for children. And it's like, no, the first fairy tales were not for children, and they're quite ancient. A lot of them, and they also circle the globe. So, like, Cinderella is a global kind of story, dating from the pharaohs in Egypt. There's a Cinderella story. There's a Cinderella story in Japan. Native Americans have a Cinderella story. And it's like weird how these stories, are very much the same. And they say there's only 7 stories in the whole world. It's just, what background are you putting to them? So it's interesting to see what stories come out of your art. Because it's more than just an impression. Like when you see a painting, it's awesome that someone can do that. But that's a moment, a snapshot in time. Journals are often a journey. Even if you're going to give it away or use it for another purpose of your own healing, the journey of making and decorating the journal is a journey, whether like you keep it or give it away. It's creativity that doesn't demand perfection. Wherever our mistakes become part, or where are even our mistakes is what I meant, where even our mistakes become part of the creative process. And that's so true in life, right? Like, you are not who you are because of just the good things you've done. You are who you are because of the mistakes you've made, the bad things you've done, the bad decisions maybe you've made, the screw-ups you've done, all your messy times, as well as all your good times. All of that is who you are, as me as well, as is the junk journal. In fact, it's better if there's no perfection. Like I said, it adds to it when it's not perfect, right? And in the big, busy, often overwhelming, noisy, confusing world, that is powerful. So what's coming next? So I'm just about to end here, and I hope you will join me on this journey as we explore beginning, how to put a junk journal together, different kinds of junk journals. I'm hoping to do a lot of tutorials so that you can do one yourself if you want to. Relaxing decorate with me sessions, because those are very great to watch. Sorry, turning off another phone call. Themed journal to that, healing journals, lots of how-to videos. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you will subscribe to my channel. I hope you will join me on this journey. This is just the introduction. And I'm hoping to do a beginning, let's start a journal. The next time I'm hoping to get 2 or 3 videos out every week. So that's my goal. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. Yes, I'm old. I know there's many platforms, but as I tell my granddaughters, Nana can't do everything. So I'm on Facebook and Instagram. You can find me on Facebook under Rhonda Devlin-Gilbert. You can follow or friend me or whatever you want. And then also you can find me on Facebook under Goddess Garage, as well as Goddess Garage on Instagram. You can subscribe and become a subscriber to my Facebook profile. And if you do, you'll get extra bonus videos. Yeah, I think that's about it. So remember, beautiful things don't have to start perfect. In fact, you're beautiful just as you are. And sometimes beauty starts as trash and scraps. See you on the next video. Be still, be gentle, and find more things to love than to hate. Mwah. Bye.